Everybody. Welcome to Career Lab Wednesday. I'm your host, George Miller. We are getting started here. We are going live, so I'm streaming live on LinkedIn and on YouTube. Thank you, Jane. We're up and rolling. So there's a few ways you can participate. You can always jump in directly on this Zoom link if you want to talk to me directly. You don't have to do that, but if you want one-to-one direct feedback, I'm happy to work with you here. Do know it is being live streamed. So if you don't want to do that, you can always type questions into the comment section, and I will do my best to get to those questions. Another key thing about Career Lab Wednesday is that you don't have to ask questions that have anything to do with this topic. So today I'll be sharing about emotional intelligence and being a manager and some of the challenges in being a leader. So I'll be sharing about that, but any question that you have that's career related is welcome. So again, you don't have to stay on topic here. You can ask anything. If you've got a resume question, if you've got interview questions, if you've got networking questions, if you have questions about working with a boss, working with your team, anything's fair game here. Even things like, what do I really want to do? Or how do I find happiness at work? That kind of thing. Anything is fair game here. I will tend to tie everything back to emotional intelligence because that's my expertise. But again, any question that you ask is fair game. So you can do that by typing into the comment section, or you can join in here directly on Zoom. If you're on Zoom, if you're joining in that way, you may want to start off with your camera off and see how that goes for you. If this is being live streamed, so if you come on camera, if you ask questions with your voice, that will be broadcast on YouTube and LinkedIn Live. So if you want to stay anonymous, just let me know. You can type your questions into the comment section, and if you're here on Zoom, type it into the chat. All right. Well, I want to dive in a little bit here to leading with emotional intelligence, and what do you do? How do you lead in your management role? So in my time working with people in their careers, one of the things that has become obvious is that being a good manager is an incredibly challenging task. And so if you're beginning to manage people, one of the key things for you to do is to get to know that person. But I'm going to back up a little bit here. In fact, at the beginning of anything, it's incredibly important to get to know as many people as you can. So if you are just getting started in a company, then you want to make contact with as many people as you can from a getting to know them kind of space. Not just about the jobs, not just about the tasks that they are doing. That's important to understand that, but it's important to have a foundation of person to person, because then everything that comes after that is going to sink in deeper. As you understand the person and then the role that they're doing, as you understand them as a person, what they're doing is going to have more significance to you. What they're doing is you're going to think about them in a deeper kind of way. You're going to understand them as an individual. So from the very beginning, that's important to do. Now, when you are moving into a management position, again, what you want to do is now you have to touch up all those relationships. Anybody that you're going to be working with, who you're going to be managing, you're going to want to get to know them again from your new role. So you'll ask them again, you'll say, okay, here's where since I've known you, I've seen you develop in these ways, and here are the ways that I'm going to be seeing you develop. So you're communicating to them in a very personable way. You're not just telling them what to do. Now, you can. You're welcome to go into task mode and just tell people things to do. Sometimes that'll work fine, depending on the personality styles you're talking with. However, it's a good idea, overall general rule here is to invest a little bit of time up front in getting to know them, and if you already know them, then reestablishing that relationship, taking it a little bit deeper. Because over the course of the quarter that you're working with them, that time spent up front will pay off many, many times over that quarter. And so when you are moving into a management role, there's a whole bunch of new things for you to be learning and developing in yourself. So I'm going to zoom back a little bit again. So anytime we have a transition in our career, whether we are, let's say that the company has made changes and you've been let go, or you're moving into a new position, you're developing. Anytime a transition happens, it triggers all kinds of uncertainties for us. And so by knowing that a change is going to have me kind of revert to old habits, I can kind of get ahead of it. I can be looking for it. I can know that I'm going to need to be extra conscious in this moment of transition. There's really cool research on this, that transitions are times where so many mistakes happen. So again, whether you are looking for a job, whether you are moving up in your current company, these transition moments are really critical. And just knowing that will help you do better at it. So we're coming up to 10 minutes in, and I want to say to everybody who's joining in on LinkedIn Live, on YouTube, and here in the Zoom meeting, there's a few ways that you can participate. You're welcome to type your questions into the comment or into the chat section. And again, your questions, they don't have to be exactly on this topic. Anything career related is welcome. Whether you're starting off working on your resume, working on interviewing, or if you have questions about how to interact with your team, how to interact with your boss, any questions about your purpose at work, finding more satisfaction, anything like that is fair game. So for those of you who I see a few new people joining in today, the context, the way that I look at career is, how is what you're doing at work helping you become who you can become? The studies on happiness show that it's not money, it's not time, it's not vacationing, it's not kids, it's not getting married. It's not, none of these things actually make us happy. They make us happy, for quick bursts. But they don't really contribute to our happiness. That the thing that actually has us happy, having a job that we're feeling good about, this kind of thing, is learning and growing. So learning and growing is what actually makes human beings happy. And human beings, we all kind of suck at knowing what's going to make us happy. We think that other things are going to make us happy when it's really, as far as we know at this point in studying human beings, it seems to be that learning and growing is the thing that really gives us a sense of purpose, meaning, and like we're able to make the kinds of changes to ourselves and the world that we want. So that's the overall context of how I work with people in their careers, is how are you using whatever you have going on in your career to develop yourself? If you believe in God or spirit or whatever, the way that you could look at it is, oh, God is sending you a message. what is what does God want you to learn from whatever you're working on in your career? And so it's a big deal, and most of us were not raised in ways that had us really thinking about ourselves and our careers in the optimal way. So that's the overall context. Then a key piece of developing in your career is emotional intelligence. I'll break that down a little bit, but just to let everybody know who's joining in for the first time, emotional intelligence is so important. Most of us can learn technical skills at any point in our life. We can always learn how to do a new thing. Emotional intelligence is the thing that leaders need. So as you are developing in your career and getting into, even if you're like super smart, if you don't know how to communicate your insights to people, you can only go so far. So emotional intelligence is what people who are looking for leaders they're looking for people who are emotionally intelligent. So now I said I'd dive in a little deeper on this. So emotional intelligence, that's your relationship with your emotions. The more that I am able to be present with my fear, hurt, anger, sadness, and joy, core feelings, the more that I am present with my core feelings, able to feel the discomfort and have it give me valuable information about what's happening around me, the more that I increase my emotional intelligence, ability to be conscious, present, engaged with my own feelings, well, then the world starts to open up to me in terms of relationships. And then I become increasingly socially intelligent. But it starts with me. It starts with how I am experiencing myself. I just met with a client this morning who shared this thing. So what he said about this topic was, I experienced numbness. So people, and he wasn't even conscious of this until he started looking at it. He got feedback that he could be more emotionally intelligent as a leader. That was something somebody said to him, one of his bosses, and he was like, I don't even know what they're talking about. Okay, I guess I'm going to reach out and start learning some of this. So there was a period of time where all he was aware of was that people would say things and he experienced it as sort of a numbness, or he would check out. He'd start thinking about other things. We'd find, it's hard to pay attention to so and so. When they speak up in a meeting, I find I'm distracted. Okay, so by focusing on his core feelings, fear, hurt, anger, sadness, joy, he started to notice things that he didn't notice before. Feelings happening in his chest and his heart and his gut. And he was like, oh my gosh, wait, now I'm starting to feel this discomfort, this pain, this sense of aliveness in my stomach when somebody says something that I disagree with or whatever, or doesn't respect me or something like that. Oh my gosh. And I used to just kind of go numb here. So now that he has access to feelings he didn't have before, now he's working on being socially intelligent with that, about how to communicate that to somebody on his team. So if somebody is not going by the guidelines of that meeting, if somebody was doing something they weren't supposed to be doing in the meeting, and now that he's aware that he's feeling hurt, his first thing is he's like, he wants to tell them to knock it off. Can't really do that in a corporate meeting. So now he's having to learn how to communicate his feelings in a way that is responsible and effective. So he's learning social intelligence. So again, that is, we just did a quick dive into emotional intelligence and how that then turns into social intelligence. So as a manager, in our topic today of managing teams, and when you're moving into that, you're going to feel more anxiety, more pressure is on you. And so your relationship with your fear, your relationship with your hurt are going to be increasingly important. So one of my things as a leader is I'm so good at being laissez-faire and oh, everything's cool, no problem. And that's a way that, there's totally value in that. That serves me very well a lot of the time. I wouldn't do it otherwise. But as I start leading teams, as I started hiring people when I was working at the organization I used to work with, as I started leading more teams and doing this kind of thing, it doesn't work anymore. It's not going to work for me to just sit back and like let everything happen all the time. That's not, so now as an authority figure, I've got to start paying more attention to what I'm feeling in response to other people. And as I do that, it's like I'm turning up the aliveness in every moment in my life. And I'm increasingly, a lot of times up front, I'm uncomfortable. But I'm also choosing to have more fun with that and choosing to turn that into more of a sense of joy and excitement. And so now as I do that, I'm able to be more aware of other people and where I see gaps and things, and I can suggest things in a way that they're grateful to hear. I know how to ask for permission with people. Hey, would you like to hear something? What level of feedback do you want? Ah, that's a good one. So if you're moving into management, a great thing that you can do is ask whoever you're meeting with, tell me how you like to get feedback. What's the best way for you to hear things from another person? That's a great way to just start that. Because another thing about this is that the now learning and growing, as I was saying, in the context of our careers and that how are we using our career to learn and grow. So funny thing about learning and growing as an adult is that it always involves pain. This is the work of Jack Mesereau, who talks about that childhood is about formation and adulthood is transformation. So he did a lot of work with developing leaders and adult learning. And so the problem, well, the quote unquote problem, I mean, at least in the way that we're kind of trained to think about it, is that as we grow as leaders, we're going to feel more pain because we're going to have to be learning new things. And it's just the way it is. So the only way that I'm actually able to be happier in life is to experience pain. And it's like, this is what it is to be human. And we all know that on some kind of a level. Like there's some way that, if we've made it this far in our lives, we know this. But it can be helpful to highlight that and to think about that when we are moving into new roles, when we're facing new challenges in our career. Because another thing that happens so often, and this is like especially millennials, like but I think everybody, but I think millennials are extra hard on themselves. I know I am. And is that when we move into a leadership position, the tendency for me to then start criticizing myself even more, because now I'm feeling pain. Something just changed and it's uncomfortable. And so I'm feeling that discomfort. It's so easy for me to start criticizing myself. And when doing that, it can seriously get in the way of me developing. I mean, this is like, I've been coaching now for over 10 years. I've been doing personal growth work for like 15. If you count some of the stuff I was doing before that, I'll say 20 years. And I'm working on this every day of my life, is being kinder to myself, being less critical in a mean way, being objective, learning how to be critical with vision. So that's another key thing in management, is learning how to communicate expectations clearly and understanding that who you're talking to, that they may feel hurt. They probably will, because they're human, whether they're aware of it or not. And yet, if you are allowing yourself to feel the discomfort of communicating that and treating them as if they're whole and complete and like they can handle it, that's ultimately going to be more respecting to them. And so there was a while where people were trained to give feedback with a positive, negative, positive. Well, think about when that's done to you. It doesn't feel good. Or when somebody I've worked with for years, one of my mentors, Dr. Judith Wright, would call that a shit sandwich. It's like, it's still shit in the middle. Doesn't make it feel any better just because there's, somebody like took the time to put some positives on either side of it. It's actually better to be in relationship with the person who you're giving the feedback to and saying, here's the expectations, here's the ways that I see that you're meeting them, here's the ways I see you're not meeting them. Right there. It's just straight, direct. And if you want to be really good at it, if you want to be a freaking ninja in how you manage, a great thing you can do is always take responsibility for any mistakes that you may have made. So you might say, you know what? I don't think I communicated this expectation to you clearly. Here's what it is. Now that's how I expect things going forward. Bam, right there. You didn't turn it into something wrong about them. You just say, I don't know. I don't think I was as clear with them about how important it is that they do this thing. Right there. Now, if the behavior doesn't change, again, everybody has a different learning style, different ways of taking in information. So you can point it out again in a different way. You can say, I told you this. I noticed that the behavior didn't change. What do you make of that? And you can leave the anxiety with them instead of trying to micromanage. So as you are going into a new leadership position, look, that hands down, the biggest issue that I work with people on is that they want to micromanage stuff. Is that they have a lot of anxiety about that transition for themselves. And so they seek to assuage their own anxiety by having their hands too much on what other people now need to be doing. They have a hard time letting go. So that's another thing to do. And you can practice. Again, developing your relationship with your fear is like fundamental. You don't have it, it will serve you just to be more conscious of times that you're feeling anxiety, and you will start to see ways that that plays out while you're managing. If you just by saying, oh my gosh, I feel so much anxiety right now that person's not going to do their job right, but I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to sit here and just feel what I'm feeling. Just doing that will help you significantly. So oh my goodness, we're coming up halfway here already. So If you're listening in, there's a few ways you can participate. You can always type your questions into the comment section if you're on LinkedIn Live or on YouTube. And if you're here on Zoom, you can type your questions into the chat. Know that your questions don't try to force them to be on topic. You can ask anything. I love getting questions out of left field. I feel the fear of getting a question of that, and then I turn it into aliveness and excitement, and I do my best with it. So you can ask any question that you want, and it can be about your resume, interviewing, managing, or just how do you have more happiness in your career? Or what do you do if your current position seems like it's a dead end? If you've got any questions about networking, I'll say that, right? Networking is so incredibly important in your career development. And people that you worked with or working with now, those are people that you want to refer back to. Ooh, I got such a good one. So networking, I have been practicing this for years of reaching out to people as I think about them. I have lists of people just that I think about and I put on a thing. So if I'm ever like, oh, who should I call? I can like go look at a list. I could call people all day and never get to everybody I want to talk to. So anyway, just had a cool thing happen where somebody reached out to me about a speaking opportunity for next year. And that came because I had been talking to them about me going into ice water. And I was saying, I think people are saying I should start doing public speaking about this. So I'm just putting that out there. I'm just talking about it. And then I had helped connect them with somebody else. And so anyway, this thing came up and they're like, oh, let me talk to George about that. And so they reached out to me and are helping set me up with a speaking engagement. And that came out of me staying in touch with them in lots of little ways, tagging them on some Instagram posts, this kind of thing. So when you're developing in your career, no matter where you're at, the relationships are incredibly important to you. Relationships, I don't know how this is going to happen yet, but I am saying that there are people who I went to high school with that I'm somehow going to end up working with. I did have one almost happen. Ooh, I did have one happen, but I want more. I want more. I did have one of these happen, but I want like a bigger project to come out of it anyway. So your relationships are so important. And again, if we break this down to your career, the purpose that you're having in your career, happiness that you can get from engaging in your career, learning and growing in your journey. Your emotions are so key to this. Your emotions are the things that tell you what's important to you, tell you so much information about the people around you. And that social intelligence, as you move into that, that helps you expand your network, deepen the relationships with people. And that then has them supporting you more as you are developing. Most of us are going to have many different jobs. I mean, so if you are somebody that's had several jobs already, and if there can be that sense of like, oh, like, what am I doing? Like, what's wrong with me about that? It makes a lot of sense because it wasn't that long ago, like our parents, our grandparents, my grandpa had the same freaking job his entire life. So it wasn't that long. Actually, and my mom had the same job. My dad had like 3 jobs. So anyway, so as you are developing in your career, just knowing that you're probably going to move through a lot of different companies. it's the nature of where we're at now. Companies open, thrive, and then crash and burn like real quickly these days. So I'm going to share a couple things here. If you are wanting to talk with me one-to-one, please set up a time on my calendar. I know here while I'm live streaming is, might not be what you want to do. You might not want to jump on here and talk with me directly. That's fine. If you are wanting help with something, I'm very often able to help somebody significantly in like a 15-minute call and just help affirm some of the decisions you're making or whatever. And if you need more time with me, we can talk about an ongoing coaching relationship. So take a look at that. Set up a time with me. I would love to speak with you one-on-one. Another thing that you can take a look at is the online career course that I have. So I pair this course with a lot of clients that I have. They will use this. But if you're not wanting to meet with a coach or whatever, and you just want a mindset shift in how you look at your career, and you want some straightforward, objective, pretty common sense worksheets and things that just help you take the necessary steps in moving up in your career, go ahead and check out Accelerate Your Career. It's always kind of in development, but there's videos and worksheets there that will help you. And another thing that I want to share with everybody is the personality assessment. There's a quick video about personality styles, as well as a personality assessment that you can take. There's no cost to it. You're welcome to click on that link. It's called Connect and Thrive. So again, you'll learn about yourself. You'll learn what style you are, connecting deeper with yourself, emotional intelligence. Then that helps you connect deeper with other people's social intelligence, connect and thrive. You can thrive more in your relationships with others. So that's a fun thing, totally free. Take advantage of it, share it with your friends. I've had several clients who, when they started working with me, they would share it with their team at work, and everybody would take it. They all get to know each other in that way, and they found that was helpful in their team meetings, that they were better able to communicate with each other. So those are a few things you can check out. And again, 15 minutes with me, one-to-one, the career course that's online, and Connect and Thrive, which is about personality styles and learning yours and learning other people's. All right. Well, we are moving into the second half of Career Lab Wednesday. I want to say to everybody, if anybody's just joining in on LinkedIn or on YouTube, you are welcome to ask any questions career related. You can type them into the comments section, and I will do my best to answer those questions. It can be anything. It doesn't have to do with this topic. You can ask, if a lot of people have questions about how to use LinkedIn. Because I've been using LinkedIn as a way to get clients for the past 6 years now, I've learned a lot about LinkedIn, and I might be able to help you with some things there. And if not, I know people who can help you. And so any questions about your career, feel free to ask those here. You can type your questions into the comment section, or you can jump in directly here on Zoom. And if you come in here on Zoom, and if you are courageous enough and you just want to start talking, you are welcome to do that. You can totally interrupt me. I lead all kinds of groups where that's part of the engaged way that we interact, is that people will talk over each other anyway. So as you are developing in your career, remember that you are going to feel discomfort at most transition points. Anytime we're learning something new, we're going to feel uncomfortable. And that's okay. In fact, it's a good thing. It helps us be more aware of what we need to. It's actually our body's response to a new scenario. It alerts us to things, and that's good. We need that awareness to adjust better. So we actually want to anticipate discomfort as we come up to transitions and know that it's a good thing. Know that our body is doing what it's supposed to be doing. So, well, I haven't got any questions yet. So I'm assuming that what I've been saying is just so interesting and that it's helpful. And I will keep going on this in a little bit, but I would love to get any questions. Anything that you are wanting help with in your career, anything that you're wanting support with. So, to stay on the topic of management, I think if there's one thing, one bottom line thing from everything I'm talking about here is communicating expectations clearly. That we think that we are communicating clearly. Most of us kind of have that I don't know why this is. It just seems to be that over time, it's like because I think I make sense to myself, I think I'm making sense to other people. And even if what I'm saying is clear, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person I'm talking to was completely present and aware and engaged in that. So making sure that things are clear. It's so easy to overlook this step when managing that I think it gets overlooked a lot. So if there's one thing you take away, it's to clarify goals and confirm roles. Clarifying goals, confirming roles. That if that drumbeat of okay, did I clarify what the goals are, or did that person clarify the goals back to me? And did I confirm what the role is here? Maintaining that as something that I need to keep conscious as I'm talking to the different people I'm managing. That will help you so much. It makes me think of a story I heard about this group of guys was doing paintball battles as leadership development because they're seeing how they shoot each other with paintballs and how that plays out in their entire life. And they had some elite I forget if they were Navy SEALs or what, but they had elite people come in and do this with them. So they're out in the fields shooting each other with paintballs. And at one point they said, okay, let's have everybody, it was like 10 guys, take on these two people. They should be able to beat them, right? Well, of course, they did. And the whole learning about how was it that these two guys were able to take down 10 people? What they said was talk, shoot, move, talk, shoot, move, talk, shoot, move, talk. So just because they were able to talk, shoot, and then move to the next spot, and they just knew that's what they trained on for years, they were able to take out 10 other people pretty quickly. And the confirming goals, clarifying goals and confirming roles. If you just hold that as your mantra as a manager, okay, I'm checking in with this person, clarifying their goals. and I'm confirming the role that they're in. Doing that again and again with people, you'll be amazed. You'll be amazed by the impact that that has. So if there's one takeaway, use that. And all of the stuff about emotional intelligence and social intelligence, that's all stuff that will build on that. You'll see as you are more aware of yourself, more aware of your feelings, you'll be more in touch with other people, more aware of their feelings. And that's going to help you clarify goals and confirm roles. Because there will be times where your feelings will be hurt that somebody else is doing something that you like doing, you thought you were good at, you kind of valued yourself that way. Well, in this scenario, that may not be the thing for you to be doing. And so learning how to let go of that will be uncomfortable. Okay, so I hope this is good. Oh, I am definitely seeing questions come in here. Great. So we've got a question here. Oh, cool. Oh, good. You're just checking in. Great to have you listening in. Okay. Can I speak about the risk benefit of compromise with our career search? How do we balance the fear of settling and being miserable versus the risk of aiming too high and limiting our employment opportunity? That's a great question. Great question. I want to get a sense from you. So here I'm going to do one of the things I was talking about earlier. Can I like take off my gloves and can I be completely like upfront and just let my knee-jerk reactions respond and just give you totally direct feedback? Okay, great. And so that's one thing you can do when you're managing. You can say, well, how do you like feedback? Do you want me to just tell you exactly what I'm thinking, or do you want me to be a little more sensitive about it? Or are you not ready to hear this yet? Do you need a little bit of time? You can do that with people that you're managing. That has worked a lot for me as a coach. I check out with people like, okay, where are you at? So what I would say about how do we balance the fear of settling and the fear of being miserable? So I could settle for something and be miserable, or I could aim really high and really go for what I want. Here's what I think the hard news is most of us suck at knowing what we want. And this is a way I have worked with so many people in their careers and in finding happiness in their careers where they did all the right things, they were successful leaders, they had the kids, they did all of that. And it's not that they weren't proud of it, but it didn't really make them happy. So remember, I said as human beings, we suck at knowing what makes us happy. So the problem that I first see with that question of balancing the fear of settling and being miserable versus aiming too high and limiting our employment opportunities is my guess is that you've never really been happy. My guess is that kind of thinking that has you asking that question, I bet you've gone through a lot of life kind of in that ambivalence of settling, of, oh, am I settling or am I aiming too high? And I bet that question and that trying to balance things has led to a lot of mind effing or mental masturbation that has taken you out of the moment and has had you ultimately not move on things that you probably wanted to move on. That's just a guess. So what I would do about that is I would say follow what you want to do. I don't know that there's aiming too high on anything. Go for it. And if you get an opportunity that is a stepping stone in that direction, take the opportunity. Do it now. And that will hopefully lead to something, lead to more of what you want. A story. So I had a client who joined in here several years ago, and what he was struggling with was a transition in location. A super brilliant dude. Um, Moved in part because he wanted to be in the US and also he wanted to be around family. And so a role came up that, I mean, it was beneath his pay grade and he could easily do it. And so he's like, like, this isn't really what I want to do. And yet, like, I don't know all the people here. I'm still developing my network here, and it'd be really nice to have some income coming in. It'd be nice to just know that I'm being used in some capacity. So that's what he did. He just said all this up front. He was like, I know I'm overqualified, but it looks like you could really use what I have here. And I'd like to come in and help do what I can here. And I'd like this to lead to some more possibilities. Sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And he's now in a position that he absolutely loves. And he was able to help out in that previous position for 6 months and establish some relationships, etc. So that's my hunch, is that the questions that we ask ourselves are often the wrong questions, or often not the wrong questions, but we want to dig into the questions a little more and see what's inside of those questions for us. All human beings have something that Alfred Adler called a final fictive goal. And the key word there is that it's fictive, it's fictitious. A big final fictive goal I had was that once I was on stage singing and all the crowd was loving me, that my whole life would come together and everything would make sense and I'd be happy and I could just ride it out from there. Didn't happen. When I was on stage and everybody loved me and that was happening, I was so upset afterwards because, like, oh no, it didn't actually make me happy. Now what do I do? So you'll find that with all kinds of people when they get what they want. I mean, athletes who train for years and get the thing that they thought they wanted, that like they're happy for like a little bit and then it's on to the next thing. So a final fictive goal is a key concept that you can look more into. That's a great question. I would recommend again that you keep going for the thing you want. I don't think that there's an aiming too high. You might look at it and just say, if you're not, that's the other thing, is the world gives you perfect feedback. If you're applying for stuff and you're not getting hired, it means that you're not the person for the job. It means, and if you are the person for the job, you have the skill set and stuff, you don't have the social intelligence to communicate that you know that. So in one way or another, if you're not getting hired, it means that you're not the right fit. And it's just the hard reality of life. And so if you're looking at that question of if you're aiming too high, well, yeah, there's certainly anybody who's hiring and is good at hiring, is kind of up to date on this. What they're really looking for is, does this person learn and grow? Do they take initiative? Can they figure things out on their own or figure things out with people, but they're the one driving that. So I I had somebody who was hired recently. They had no experience in that industry, but the reason the recruiter reached out to them and the reason why the company hired them was because they had demonstrated that they had moved through similar sorts of challenges, and the company could see, okay, we need this kind of a person. It's essentially, we need this kind of a woman in this role. The technical stuff, she's going to figure it out. That's not the hard part. The harder part is, does she believe in herself enough? And does she align with people? And does she ask questions? Does she learn and grow? And has okay, she's demonstrated that she does that. So again, aiming too high, I don't think that I think that's part of what makes us happy in our lives is to aim high and learn what we're missing. What are the things that I need to develop in myself so that I'm realizing that vision, so that I'm getting that thing that I want? Okay, I hope that's helpful. Good. Okay, cool, cool. Cool, cool, cool. And sometimes settling, what we think of as settling, might mean that I'm actually learning some things I'm uncomfortable with learning. And this is a big one. I really can relate to this. Because I once was when I was serving tables, I thought of that as like, oh, I'm too good for this. And I missed out on a lot of opportunities, but I still did it. I learned so much from that. And so it really was the beginning of social intelligence in a career kind of situation for me. I was good at it. And I feel sad now looking back on it and thinking that I was like criticizing myself. I wasn't fully taking advantage of the opportunity. I could have learned so much more as a server. And I'm sad that I didn't dig in more there. And if I ever go back to doing it, I will be so much better. As a coach, that's a lot of what I do is I serve people. So anyway, there's more questions. I went off on that one for a long time, and I'm glad I got that's been helpful. Okay, talk more about self beat up. Oh yeah, well, there's a little bit that I could say there. Um, the bottom line of self beat up is we're all social creatures, and the majority of us, one of the things that we did when we were growing up in our families is it was easier and safer, and it made more sense to be hard on myself instead of look at the glaring gaps in my mom and dad. Because if I really, as this tiny little being, were to experience just how unconscious they were, that's terrifying. And so it's actually a safety mechanism for us that we start criticizing ourselves. The clear one I have with my mom is that she didn't see the mountains in our backyard. I grew up in Southern California. And when she told me that when I was like a teenager or something, and it just hit me, I was like, oh my God, she couldn't see the mountains in her backyard. There's no way she was going to see me, in all the ways that I was. So that way as a little boy, I started criticizing myself like, oh, here, now let me try to get attention this way. Let me try to because just me being me wasn't enough. So this comes in very early for each of us. Everybody has their own way of beating themselves up. And there's a good reason for it. There's not a good reason to keep doing it, but to know that, oh, that was part of it. That was an adaptive behavior. It made sense for me growing up. That's what I did. Okay. Well, now let me look at some other ways, because criticizing myself in that kind of way isn't working now. So let me do something different. So there's a little bit there. And then also there's something about being the best at the job no matter. Yeah. 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 So excellence. This is what like with what I was saying about being a server is, if I focus on being the best that I can be in whatever role I'm in, I'm going to learn so much about myself in that position and other people. But if I'm focusing on, so as a server, like what I was saying was that I was criticizing, I was like, oh, I should be better than this. So I messed up more. I like didn't enter orders in correctly. I was out of rapport with certain types of people. There were certain people that came in that I had judgments about, unconscious judgments about, and I didn't treat them as well. That kind of thing. Whoa. Now, if I had turned that into just, I'm going to be the best at this. And there were times where I remember turning that, where that I flipped that switch. I just kicked ass. One time when, never mind, I'm not going to go into the story, but it was just me and a manager taking care of the whole restaurant. I was amazing. I can't believe I took care of an entire restaurant. I had no other option except to be excellent. And I learned a lot about myself, and I learned about what I could do. And I learned that ultimately I don't care about my judgments with people. That was a lot of fun. So there's a way that in a job search, when you're looking at roles, you can be looking at like, okay, is this a spot where I could just totally excel? Could I just totally crush it? Could I totally kill it? And there's so much value for yourself in your development in doing that. So if you're looking for a job, then it becomes like, how am I going to be the best at this? How am I going to be the best job seeker that I can be? And that I can be, because some people are going to be better at it in their own unique ways. But how are you going to be the best job seeker that you can be? Ah, it really changes it. Just notice how that feels in your body. That's such a great question that you, or comment that you put in there about there's something about being the best in the job no matter what. Yeah, fear. Yeah. Fear. So as you're feeling that fear about you doing the best that you can do, that fear will start to highlight gaps that you have probably. It'll be like, oh, I feel anxious about this and this and this. And then you can assess, well, wait, actually, thank you, fear, for alerting me to that concern. But actually, I think I got that one handled. Actually, I now that I'm looking more at it, I think it's more a fear of this. And I don't know that I know how to do this. Okay, now what am I going to do? How am I going to use this fear to address this need? This fear is highlighting something for me. If I'm going to be the best at this that I can be, okay, well, that's now I have a different relationship with my fear now, because it's now giving me insights about things that are going to be important for me to address. So there's more critical with vision. We're going to have to get into that next time. Great questions, everybody. Thank you for jumping in. I'll be back next Wednesday, Central Time, noon to 1 p.m. All questions are welcome. Thank you for your questions. Great engagement there. And you are welcome to set up a time with me. Shared that link earlier. Take the course online, Connect and Thrive. It's free. Have fun with it. Personality assessments. And in the meantime, be good to yourself. I will see you all next week. Take care. Bye, everybody.